The wizarding world is finally an open one. Get it? But there's way more to the new Harry Potter game than that. Hi folks, it's Falcon, and today on gameranx, 10 things you need to know about Hogwarts Legacy. Starting off with number 10, there is a seamless open world. Now, for me, and probably a lot of people, one of the most intriguing aspects about this game is it'll let you explore the world of Harry Potter and the Hogwarts School of Magic. Going in, I was just a bit skeptical about how open the world was actually going to be, but the two recent gameplay showcases proved me wrong. You can go from your dorm to the main hall of Hogwarts to an outside cliff. You can start flying through the air into the surrounding environment seamlessly, no loading screens, and it's pretty awesome because barely any open world games really have detailed interiors, especially without loading screens. Oh, it ain't like that. Another thing I really liked from the presentation is how much the devs emphasize that you can go there. Like, if it's visible, it's accessible. Like, a bridge in the distance isn't a decoration. You can actually get up there at some point. The owlery you can see in the distance looks like it's on an inaccessible cliff. Hey, remember you could friggin' fly with the broom? Yeah. In terms of world size, we know you can freely explore Hogwarts and the nearby village of Hogsmeade, along with various other little towns and villages dotted around the nearby countryside. The devs swear that Hogwarts was made to make sense, so it's hopefully not too complicated to get around once you're used to it, but there's also a fast travel system that looks pretty handy as well. Another nice thing the devs confirmed in the first gameplay showcase is that once the open world becomes available a little while in the story, you can go everywhere. There's no restrictions on it other than, like, your level. Like, you can probably get killed quickly in certain spots, but you can go there. You're asking for a world of pain by going there, but you can go there. The open world stuff does sound a little expected. There's quests you can take on from random people. There's puzzles you can solve, ancient ruins, blah, blah, blah. There's also wild beasts you can rescue from poachers and outposts containing bandits and goblin hideouts. Yeah, you gotta have bandit camps. Nothing you can do about it. This is an open world game. As far as I can tell, the world isn't quite as massive as a lot of open world games, but it's more dense, and I'm hoping that makes exploration a lot more rewarding. At number 9, this is not a Hogwarts simulator. Might be disappointing for some people, but it's good the devs pulled that band-aid off, put forward correct expectations. During the gameplay showcase, they explained how classes work, and it's not like Persona, where you take classes and things are split up in a day section. It's not Bully, where you're expected to take certain classes at certain times. The game just has basic quest structure, split into chapters. During each chapter, you got your main quest, side quests, and classes. During class, you learn new spells, but it sounds like these classes are basically functional as quests, and they become available by progressing through the story. So there is a day and night system, but your class progression is basically static. So basically, do classes when you want to. Some of them are optional. Certain classes are required because you definitely need those spells to progress through the story. Along the way, you'll find additional tasks you can do for classes, which earn optional spells and brings you more lore. They briefly showed the house ranking hourglass, which is important in the books, but in game, not really that important. Story-wise serves a purpose, but otherwise doesn't really do anything. It's not a meta game where the highest house rank is important or anything like that. Long story short, not a sim, at least when it comes to school. Pretty much works like most open world games, very quest oriented. And that might be disappointing for some people, but the devs were upfront about it and didn't try to imply the game was more complicated than it actually is. We're looking at you, Cyberpunk 2077. And I actually think that's refreshing. Overselling is really, really annoying. At number 8 is Brooms and Mounts. The second gameplay showcase gave us basically our best look on how flying works in the game, and it looks pretty fun. As long as you're outside, it looks like you can call a broom and start flying. You can't just fly wherever you want from the start. There's a meter at the bottom of the screen, shows how high you can go, and the further you go up in a broom, the lower that gets. So you can't go nuts flying as high as you want right from the start, but you can upgrade the broom at a store in Hogsmeade, which can increase your altitude and make it so you can fly faster, etc. And you can customize it as well because, I mean, no broom is complete until it's got a chromed out exhaust system, right? Don't expect that. That's not a thing in the game. One disappointing confirmation we've known for a while is that there is no Quidditch. Devs confirmed it's just not there at all. Again, might be disappointing for people, but again, at least they said they established proper expectation. There are mounts, at least, creatures you can fly on, like hippogriffs or griffins. They don't have height limitations, but they're slower. One cool feature is that they don't just fly. We actually saw a hippogriff being ridden like a horse before transitioning to flying. That's pretty cool. At number 7, might sound boring, like a lot of things, but the gameplay showcase finally revealed what the game looks like in action. So that means we have seen the UI, and that gives a lot of clues about how the game's going to play. See, I gave you a good reason to care about the UI, didn't I? So let's run down these elements real quick. Probably the thing that stands out most for people is the minimap. Instead of the compass a lot of RPGs use now, this game has an old-fashioned minimap in the corner, has all the collectibles and quest markers on it. Now, there are players that don't like those, and you can apparently turn that off. So yeah, next to the minimap is this potion, which is apparently a magical tool that can assist in combat. Use it by pressing L1. You hold down L1, opens the tool wheel, and you can select different items to slot in there. On the right hand side of the screen is a spell diamond, which shows all your available spells. This is where you slot in spells you can use on the fly from a selection of over 20 possible ones. By releasing R2, you cast a basic spell. Well, if you hold down, the spell diamond opens up and you can press a face button to cast some other spell. Sounds fairly simple, right? Well, there's multiple spell diamonds you can unlock by progressing through the game. You can cycle between them freely. So by the end, you should be able to choose up to 16 spells in combat. Might take a little getting used to because you switch diamonds by pressing right and left on the D-pad while holding R2. Gives you a lot of access to a lot of spells. Beside the spell diamond, there's a green health bar. Number beside it is your healing item count. You can use them during battle to restore health. Kind of reminds me of Bioshock, weirdly enough. Above the heart bar, final part of the UI, the ancient magic meter, which I'll explain in more detail in just a moment. All in all, the UI makes it look like switching between spells should be easy, but we will have to see how it works in practice when we actually get our hands on the game. At number 6, combat was another big question mark before the gameplay deep dives. We do have a much better idea now. It's kind of Arkham, but in Harry Potter. Kind of an oversimplification, but maybe not as much as you might think. In combat, you have all these spells. They serve different functions. Direct attack spells. They do damage. Force spells knock enemies around. Control spells. The debuff for trap enemies. Each one of these has a cooldown, which is longer or shorter depending on the strength of the spell. The basic attack doesn't really have a cooldown, while the one-hit spell can take a long time to recharge. Defense moves, you gotta dodge. You can deflect. It's bound to Y or triangle by default. Basically Batman's counter button. When you tap it, just blocks. You hold it down, you'll counterattack and stun the enemy temporarily. While you're doing all this, you're building up a combo. Combos cause these blue orbs to drop off. A meter builds up. You can unleash a powerful attack by pressing R1 and L1. And yeah, that might sound a little unique, but in practice it looks a lot like an Arkham game, except for punching is not the thing you're doing, you're casting spells. How satisfying or fun this will end up being, it's really hard to say. I'll say that it looks a lot better than what they were showing in the original reveal. Along with all that, there's magical tools that give you an edge in battle. Plants, interesting. You can throw them and they work like allies. There's one that shoots enemies like a turret, one that can stun enemies by screaming very loudly. There's also a stealth aspect to the game, although they haven't really showed a whole lot of it. Probably pretty minor, but you can turn invisible and do takedowns on unaware enemies, so it's not gonna be non-stop combat. Hopefully it's all good. At number 5 is the Room of Requirement. The gameplay showcase gave us a good look at the Room of Requirement. Basically an area you can craft, upgrade, customize, etc. Probably the most impressive thing about the trailers is it's not really menu driven, it's more seamless. You do it as your characters. You conjure up tables, chairs, objects, etc. Along with being able to change their orientation, you can change an object's color and size, which is more than you'd expect. There's a potion crafting table, a plant table, there's a loom, there's a life-size aquarium for beasts. The devs were a little cagey. Apparently you can rescue animals from poachers and take them to the aquarium thing. They're not just for show, they can give you crafting materials if they're happy. So I don't think it's like a Tamagotchi style animal raising sim. I think you're kind of just giving the creatures food and petting them, and that's I don't know, maybe that's kind of Tamagotchi like. I don't know, it's been a long time. You can upgrade the vivarium, as it is called, like getting a food processor to automatically feed the beasts, etc. The Room of Requirement, like the vivarium, gets bigger too. You progress through the game, new rooms open up, etc. It's cool. At number 4, character creation. In the first gameplay showcase, we got a pretty good look at the character customization. Most are pretty standard options, but there is some worthwhile stuff to talk about. It's fairly limited at first. You can change the face shape, but there's not really sliders. There's a fair amount of options, but it doesn't look like you can make a horrible freak, which for some is less than appealing. Along with the face, you can give the character glasses, choose from a selection of hairstyles, eye color, eyebrow shape. You finalize on a male and female voice, one of 4 standard difficulty levels, give your character a name, and select your dorm, either witch or wizard. The devs explained that while some options like hair can be changed later to barbershop, most it's kind of locked, so you're stuck with whatever face you pick. You also pick which house you're part of, not necessarily during the character creator, but in the story. Still big part of it though it doesn't sound like house affects it too much. Like, you don't have to be evil if you're Slytherin, but there may be some content locked behind which house you choose. How much? Don't know yet. At number 3, you can't have a Harry Potter game without some companions. Along with the many characters you can take quests from, there's a few important people you get to know on a more personal level. Devs have been not so loud about how they'll actually work, but we know there will be characters from at least some of the time that ask for your help and accompany you during missions. They can also apparently help expand abilities, like Sebastian Sallow, sounds like he has a close association with the dark arts. Poppy Sweeting, closely associated with beasts, etc. I don't know if there are characters that are a lot more elaborate than quest givers, though the devs did say that helping out certain characters affects the world and may even change the ending. So apparently multiple endings confirmed, but apparently there aren't really like any huge choices in the game. So we'll see exactly what that means when it comes out. At number 2, the story. What we know so far of this is that it's set in the 1800s, which is obviously way before Harry Potter. Most of the characters are different. Some characters who were around back then that we know from the Harry Potter series, like Nearly Headless Nick, are there. Headmaster Black is played by Simon Pegg. You're a 5th-year student in your first year of Hogwarts. While there, you learn about ancestors, a special kind of magic you have called ancient magic. There's a goblin rebellion, which is actually being pushed by dark wizards, I guess. The trailers try to present these things as separate, but like, obviously the Goblin Rebellion is just the start and the real enemies of the dark wizards. And it all has something to do with your character's ancient magic. And finally, release dates, bonuses, etc. Game is coming out February 10th for PS5 and Xbox Series and PC. Last gen ports hitting in April. Nintendo Switch coming out July 25th. But I'll believe it when I see it. All right. Game is getting some PlayStation exclusive content like haptic feedback and adaptive triggers. There's a PlayStation exclusive quest called the Haunted Hogsmeade Shop, and it doesn't seem like there's any microtransactions. The website's FAQ says it doesn't have any. That doesn't mean they can't nickel and dime you with some DLC and platform exclusive content, but hey, better than loading it up with a battle pass and a real money shop. There is a deluxe edition that includes the Dark Arts pack, and they were shilling hard for that the second gameplay showcase, but the real selling point is it gets you 72 hours early access to the game. These kinds of early release plans seem to run into problems in our experience, but hey, if you want to get the game as early as possible, the option is there.
And that's all for today. Leave us a comment. Let us know what you think. If you like this video, click like. If you're not subscribed, now's a great time to do so. We upload brand new videos every day of the week. Best way to see them first is, of course, a subscription, so click subscribe. Don't forget to enable all notifications, and as always, we thank you very much for watching this video. I'm Falcon. You can follow me on Twitter at Falcon the Hero, and we'll see you next time right here on gameranx.